Daléne, here we are again for our 4th episode of Between Two Barrels. Now it's official.
We have a name.
And, we're getting spoiled here. Last week we were in icon wine territory.
Absolutely.
So we thought, we need to shoot higher. So this week we are in legend wine territory.
Absolutely.
And, where to start to introduce this wine? Chateau yquem is one of the big wines of the world. It's been around for I think the vineyards have been planted in the beginning of 1700, so in the 18th century. Yeah. The chateau and the castle were there before that. It's been in a family hand for many years. Mm-hmm. Today it's owned by the lucky group LVMH. And Chateau yquem, there's so much to say about it. But first of all, let's start from the principle. It's a first growth, but it's a special first growth. So there are, as you know, and you told me, there was a classification in 1855, which was introduced by Napoleon III in France, who attempted to rank wines in Bordeaux. And interesting enough, it was done by price, or by what market price they were able to get, exactly. And so we have the 5 red wine producers, which are Margaux, Latour, Lafite, Haute-Brion, and Mouton Rothschild, which was added later. That's a separate story. And they are called Premier Cru. And then there is a Premier Cru Supérieur, which is Chateau yquem.
And there's only one.
There's only one. They're not a red wine producer. Mm-hmm. They are the only one that don't have a second wine. Yes. And we'll get into the wines now. And what an honor to have these wines in the show. And thank you to LAPD, which is one of our sellers, who sponsored this Ygrec, which is the wine we're drinking now. Yes. And what do you know about this wine, or what do you think?
Well, I know that this is their still wine, and this is a white wine, which is quite interesting, of Bordeaux. Yeah. And a Bordeaux white blend is traditionally Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. So normally a bit dominant Sauvignon, or is it 50-50? So this wine was actually introduced in 1959, and it is not made in every vintage, because apparently some vintages are just not meeting their standards. Wow. And therefore, from 1959 to today, only 33 vintages were actually made.
Wow! So basically, every second year.
Yeah,
that's incredible. What a luxury to have and be able to say, okay, I'm not producing a wine at all. And I'm going to sell off the grapes.
But I also don't think it's that much of a luxury. I think it's a quality,
Sure, so it's a necessity.
Yeah, they'll actually, they'll incur financial, difficulty just to not make a bad wine.
Absolutely. So Ygrec, which only recently is available in South African market, the winemaker and the brand ambassador of Chateau yquem was here a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, in which we met. And it's not their second wine, so they make a point of it. So they have 2 first wines. They have a dry white wine, and they have a sweet wine, which is obviously their most famous release. However, this is Ygrec means Y. That's obviously on the label. And we have this wine available on port to port, I think, in 2 or 3 vintages. We posted this morning one of them, and you can just swipe up. Amazing wine, ages beautifully. Probably one of the best pairings with seafood. And I would definitely keep some back in the cellar and open in 10 years or so.
Absolutely. This is my favorite. I love a white wine, but I love Sauvignon. Yeah. But I love blending it with the Semillon. It just brings a bit more depth to that acidity of the Sauvignon.
Completely agreed. But let's move on. I think the actual Chateau yquem sweet wine requires a little bit of extra airtime as well. And today we're showcasing a few. So there's a 1984 here, which we're not opening because it's my birth year. And
we can't.
It's a gift from my wife, and I might open it when I'm 100.
100?
Maybe. And but we are opening a 1999, so that's already a relatively older gentleman there. It's amazing to see the color differences by them. And it's one thing which, if you go on the Chateau yquem website, they have the vintage chart where they photograph the bottles from above and the difference between them is the color, and it's quite amazing how they evolve.
But it's also one of the only kind of wineries that you can see this ageability, because I mean, I think in 2006 they had a 135-year vertical, and it just shows the absolute ageability of these sweet wines and the beautiful coloring that it takes on as it ages.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those wines that have to be in everyone's cellar, and because it's something you can buy on the birth of your son or daughter and give them when they're 80.
Yes, and then you can put it on auction, because apparently the 1811 vintage got something like $117,000. Like, it was auctioned off for that amount. So I mean, if you keep it for long enough,
and if you're disciplined enough not to open it,
yes,
that's a great
that's
investment.
the biggest thing.
That's a great investment. So ageability is a good point. I mean, some of our viewers might ask, I mean, how long does a wine like this keep, and why? So first of all, how long it keeps over a century. So no doubt the high quality of this wine, the high amount of sugar, allow for it just to keep on evolving in the bottle forever. So don't worry, store it properly, and you can open it whenever you want.
So why is Sauternes so well suited to this kind of production?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Daléne. So I think there is a certain, obviously, microclimate in Sauternes which allows this noble rot, which is Botrytis cinerea, to thrive. And what it is without getting too geeky and specific, it is basically a fungus which covers the outside of the skin. It creates this layer, this gray layer. That's why it's called cinerease. And what the fungus does, it sucks out the water content from the grapes, so it concentrates the flavors, it concentrates the sugars, and it creates this incredibly complex thing. And why is it so expensive? It's probably one of the most expensive vineyard operations there are in the world, because first of all, you need to ensure that the Riardi conditions are met in order for noble rot to develop. That doesn't happen all the time. So Chateau d'Yquem had to write off 10 vintages. The last one was 2012, where they made no wine at all.
Yeah.
While I talk, I'm pouring.
Thank you.
And the other thing is that, I mean, look at this color. The other thing is that
beautiful.
you are because the noble rot develops at different stages. The pickers pass into the vineyard 6 or 7 times. Yeah. And sometimes they even go berry by berry and pick it and bring it home. So you can imagine the cost involved to produce this.
And
this
the time.
nectar. It's unbelievable.
But this is also the smell of this. It just makes me understand why collectors really invest in wines like this, because every time you purchase one of these vintages, you don't know necessarily how it would have evolved, but the depth of this is just like, you know, I think that's the thing that people invest in, what collectors want. Exactly. Is that like not knowing. But
also there is something to be said about the versatility of the wine. I think it's a misconception to call it a dessert wine. I can guarantee that this wine is amazing with an appetizer, with foie gras, with seafood. Oh. So it's a wine that you can. I know there's a high content of sugar, but why it's so incredibly special is because this high amount of sugar is balanced by a high amount of acidity, which means that you can keep on drinking it. You crave more. So it's
and the older the better.
The older the better, exactly, because you get those tertiary aromas. You start getting them these amazing flavors of walnuts and hazelnuts and the honey, obviously, that comes through.
But this has, what is it that I taste? What is that? It's so, I don't know what it is.
I get a lot of almond on this.
Yes.
This is, but it's just been
That
opened,
is what it is.
Exactly.
So how long would you suggest, like, decanting this and like leaving it to breathe? Or?
You can, yes. I would definitely. You can decant it for sure. It can benefit from a bit of breathing, and this is still young. I mean, this is 1999. This wine is 30 years old.
Yeah, 30 years.
And it's 20
20.
years old. My math, even last time. Still 20 years old. The next one we can drink in 10 years' time. Okay. And yeah, so I think for whoever is watching us right now and is a bit jealous,
you should be.
I suggest you should be, and I suggest you take that finger, swipe up on Instagram, buy a couple of bottles for your cellar, some to keep, some to drink, and yes, enjoy life. It's short.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Daléne. Where do we go next week? My gosh, if we keep on going like this.
That'll be fun.
Fantastic. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.